Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 150 of the BoxHard Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Joey Coastman. I'm joined by Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joe. Yourself?
Very good, my friend, very good. Right, episode 150, we will have two guests on the show, two former world title challengers. Just before we get into all that though, let's start with the review part of the show. Let's start at a place called the Emirates Arena in Glasgow, Scotland. We were supposed to see David Oliver Joyce take on Ronnie Clark. That was supposed to top the bill, but that fight ended up falling through. In the end, David Oliver Joyce still fought. He took on a guy at late notice called Arturo Lopez, who had a record of 5-4 with 3 draws. David Oliver Joyce continues a perfect record, 8-0 with a TKO in the 6th round there. Also, David Brophy picked up win number 20. He's got 2 losses and 1 draw. It was a TKO in round 5 against Norbert Cesares, who now has a record of 18-68 with 3 draws. Willie Hutchinson moved to 5-0, a TKO in round 3 against Taha Mirhusini, who now has a record of 0-2. Also, we had Stephen Orman pick up win number 26. He was down in the 8th round, and he also had his man George Ashy down in the 9th. So quite a interesting few last rounds there. Stephen Orman picked up the win though on points over 10. He's now 26-5. George Ashy now 28-5 with 1 draw. Also, we had Dara Foley. He topped the bill against Chris Jenkins, 19-3 with 1 draw. Dara Foley's actually a guy that was born in Kent in the UK, but he has Irish citizenship and he lives in Australia. So that is why he was actually the WBA Oceania super lightweight champion. He brought the belt over to Scotland and took on Chris Jenkins. The reason why Chris Jenkins is eligible to win this title is beyond me. But anyway, Jenkins was cut by the right eye in the 2nd round. It was due to a head clash, and at the end of the 3rd round, the ringside doctor actually decided that the injury was too severe and he called a halt to the bout there. So a 3rd round technical draw. Chris Jenkins 19-3 with 2 draws now, and Dara Foley 15-2 with 1 draw. He remains the belt holder. Moving over now to the Minneapolis Armory in Minnesota, USA. 1 or 2 fights, or 3 fights actually, or 4 fights to mention over here. Top of the bill, Willie Monroe Jr. 22-3, now 23-3. A unanimous decision over Javier Maciel, who now has a record of 33-7. I didn't see this fight, but I was hoping that Vanes Martirosyan, the former opponent of Triple G, would be in there against Willie Monroe Jr., but that fight didn't happen in the end. Also on the undercard, Jamal James, he picked up win number 24. He's got 1 loss. It was a KO in the very 2nd round. Against Mahonry Montez, who's now 35-8 with 1 draw. Caleb Truax, a friend of the show. Everybody likes Caleb. He picked up win number 30. He told me that he'd be a little bit disappointed if he didn't get the knockout. No need to be disappointed. He got the knockout in the 3rd round. A TKO against Fabiano Pena, who's now 15-11 with 1 draw. Caleb Truax 30-4 with 2 draws. Antonio Russell also fought on the bill. That's the brother of Gary Russell Jr. He picked up win number 12, a KO in the 1st round against Nick Otieno. That's actually a good win there. Nick Otieno now 31-15. And the crazy actual fight that happened here, I don't know if you've ever seen anything like this before, Ayaz, but a man called Efe Ajagba, 5-0, I believe, with 4 knockouts, an African Olympian, undefeated heavyweight. He jumped in the ring against Curtis Harper, who once upon a time gave a very hard fight to Chris Arreola. And basically, Curtis Harper got disqualified in the 1st round, Ayaz, and not even a single punch was thrown. And that's a win there for Efe Ajagba. So he's 6-0. He's 6-0 undefeated, and this fight was unbelievable because he didn't even throw a punch. As soon as the bell went for the first round, Curtis Harper got out of the ring and left the venue. He decided that he wasn't happy with the money that he was being paid for that fight, and he decided to just take off. Have you seen the clip, Ayaz? It's done the rounds on social media. Unbelievably shocking.
No, unfortunately, no, I didn't see the rounds.
Wow. Well, honestly, as soon as the first bell went, he just climbed out of the ring and walked out. The commentators were shocked. His training team were shocked. You know, it was on live TV in the States. So, I mean, he made a bit of a statement, I guess, talking about fighters should get paid more. But very, very disrespectful. And to do it on live TV was quite something. Very, very shocking. Nobody knew about this apart from himself. Unbelievable. Moving over now, though, to the Grand Hotel in Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We had Ilunga Makabu, former opponent of Tony Bellew. He got a win here against Taylor Mabika, who was 19-2 with one draw. He made Mabika retire on his stool after 4 rounds. Makabu also defended successfully the WBC International Cruiserweight title. Moving over now to Russia, actually a very interesting thing here. There was a fight over in Russia in the Usadba Familia, in a place called Plastunovskaya. We had a guy in the ring called Rostislav Plechko, who has a record now of 13-0, all 13 by knockout. He knocked out a guy here called Irinu Costa Jr., who now has a record of 19-8. Now, this guy, Costa Jr., you know, his name rung a bell, and the reason is because he got in there with Dillian Whyte back in 2015. He got knocked out in a round. He's been in there with a few decent guys. Denis Boytsov. He got knocked out by David Price in 6 rounds back in 2015. He got knocked out by Joseph Parker in 4 rounds back in 2014. He went the distance with Christian Hammer. So yeah, he gets beat at the high level, and he took on a guy here, like I say, Rostislav Plechko, who's now 13-0, a Russian fighter with 13 knockouts. And the interesting thing about Plechko is he was actually born in St. Petersburg, Russia, and he was born with a severe pelvis joint trauma, which actually they discovered at birth. And what that means is the pelvis is joint, and you know it's very difficult for a child to learn to walk if they can ever walk. You know, they pretty much need a urgent operation straight away. And the doctors told his parents, you know, we need to treat this right now. We need to do an urgent surgery right now. And his parents said, no, he's just been born. We don't want him undergoing any kind of surgery. So they took him out of the hospital against doctor's orders and just kept him at home. And he ended up walking at the age of 6 years old. And, you know, he was completely fine by 6. Obviously, it's a very long time to start walking, but he's never looked back. He's now 13-0 with 13 knockouts, a very promising heavyweight prospect there. So all the very best to Rostislav Plechko. No other podcast gives you lessons like we do. Moving over now though to the Gila Arena in Glendale, Arizona, USA. The final bill to mention, I believe. In fact, no, there's one other one. You may know what that one is, but yeah, this one here, Not a great undercard, really. We will mention Arnold Barboza Jr. He moved to 19-0. His opponent retired on his store after 5 rounds, called Luis Solis. He's now 24-9 with 4 draws. He was actually a medical. The doctor that stopped the bout, he was unable to continue after the 5th round due to a closed eye, Solis. So I take back the fact that he retired on his stall. The undercard though, we have Isaac Dogbe. He moved to 20-0. He successfully defended his WBO World Super Bantamweight title against Hidenori Otaki, who now has a record of 31-3 with 3 draws. Otaki was down in that first round. It was the first defense for Dogbe. You know, the fight itself here, not too much to discuss. Obviously, a first round knockout. I mean, the first knockdown came from a left hook right through the guard of Otaki. Dogbe disguised it very well. I didn't even notice the disguise until I saw it in slow motion. His eyes were looking down. His left hand started low. It looked like he was going to probably rip in a body shot, but his hand came up and landed a left hook right on the button and right through the guard. And you know, it was another case of a young man in his prime against a guy who had had his day, to be honest, a very aged Otaki. And the second knockdown was a right hand in which Otaki actually touched down with his gloves. Wasn't really a proper knockdown, do you know what I mean? But his gloves touched the canvas, so he got a count. And then after the referee let the bout continue, Dogbay completely just let the shots rain in on Uzcategui, and Uzcategui's head was just bouncing all over the place. And the referee jumped in and waved it off, and rightly so. The referee was a little bit hesitant a few times before that to jump in. He looked like he wanted to, but he didn't. And then when he did, there was no real argument with that, to be honest. An absolute blowout there, a first defence for Dogbay, and it was all over in the first round. Great post-fight interview. I felt that he came across really well, very fiery, good personality. He's got very likeable and exciting character, Isaac Dogbay, a friend of the show. Hopefully we'll be getting him on the show next week. And he's also the first man to stop Uzcategui. So, first defence, first round knockout, first man to stop him. The little hat-trick there of firsts. Moving over now to the main event, though. Raimundo Beltran put his WBO World Lightweight title on the line against former world champion Jose Pedraza. It was also Raimundo Beltran's first defence. He's a friend of the show. He got in there and he fought his heart out, really. I mean, we've come to expect that every single time we see him in a ring now. Very, very much a fighter that wears his heart on his sleeve. Beltran was down in round 11. Let's talk about the fight, though. Raimundo was cut on his eye early in the fight. It was always going to be a fighter versus boxer kind of affair. I felt that Pedraza was the boxer. Beltran was, of course, the fighter. The first 3 or 4 rounds I felt were quite close. I think that most people gave those rounds to Pedraza, though. I felt that Pedraza was doing a lot of moving. He wasn't really throwing enough in the 5th round. Beltran was certainly forcing the action at that point. In the 6th round, it was starting to get a little bit messy, a lot of holding, a lot of wrestling, really kind of unsure of who was getting the better of the action. In the 7th round, the crowd were making noise for Beltran, but honestly, not too much was landing clean. Most of his attacks were being blocked. And it was once again another scrappy round. But Pedraza definitely was fighting with the wrong tactics at that point. He was trying to, kind of like trade with Beltran and fight too close up for his style, really. In the 8th round, it was another scrappy round, but Beltran won that round quite clearly. Pedraza was only really throwing singular shots, and then in the 9th round, Pedraza was actually starting to get through with some nice shots at that point. In the championship rounds, it felt as if the fight was up for grabs, really. I didn't quite know what it was about Pedraza, maybe the inactivity or something, but, he seems to fight in bursts, but bursts of beauty at the same time. He really can be quality, but it just wasn't consistent at that point. But Pedraza's performance a few years back against Stephen Smith was a very exceptional fight. That was when, to me, he really announced himself as a brilliant fighter. Now, Dan Rafael had it level going into the final 2 rounds. In that 11th round, though, Raimundo was starting to, look really tired, and then he ducked right into a left uppercut. He got back up, but he looked pretty exhausted, and to his credit, he laid on the ropes, and he did a good job of dodging Pedraza's reckless and desperate onslaught. But Beltran did really well to get through that round. It was a big 10-8 round. And in the 12th round, I actually felt that Beltran was winning the round. I mean, he responded well. He came and put the pressure on because, he probably felt he needed to win that round. But then in the last 20 seconds or so, Pedraza just somehow found another gear, and he really, really piled it on Beltran. He landed so many shots flush. And to be honest, it was looking like the referee was going to jump in. It seriously seemed like he was on the verge of jumping in, the referee. And as it was the final round and there was only a few seconds to go, thankfully Tony Weeks didn't jump in and the final bell rang. So yeah, I'm happy for Beltran to get through that fight, but it does have to be said that he got beat, and it was quite clear in the end. Pedraza just had a little bit more in the tank, even though he fought with the wrong tactics at parts of that fight. It was very much a fight of a couple of halves, really, maybe a fight of 3 different parts. It was a lot of back and forth, a lot of momentum shifts and stuff like that. But I wish that we did the prediction league, because I actually picked Pedraza to win on points, and I picked Dogbay by knockout. So I would have gained 2 points there, but it is what it is. Very, very, very unlucky when it comes to the prediction league. I am. But yeah, I feel very bad for Beltran. Like I say, a friend of the show, a man that is really fighting for his citizenship above all else. And I'm not quite sure what happens here, because like I say, he loses his world title in his very first defence, so commiserations for him. A very classy individual. He showed that in the post-fight interview as well. He was absolutely gutted, but a very a very good show of sportsmanship, as you'd expect from him. And now the final bill to mention, it was just one fight that happened yesterday, Wednesday the 29th of August 2018, in the Nakhon Sawan in Thailand. We had Chayaphon Moonsri, the WBC World Minimum Weight Champion. He took on Pedro Tajuran, whose record was 12-1. And I tell you what, Moonsri, if he wins this fight, he moves to 51-0. He eclipses Mayweather's record. Did he do it? Yes, he did. A unanimous decision over 12 rounds. Chayaphon Moonsri, also known as a few different names. We love him on this podcast. He's outdone Mr. Floyd Money Mayweather. Forget about TBE. It's all about Chayaphon Moonsri. Brilliant win for him. I didn't see the fight, I've got to be honest. I think it was at a bit of a strange time. I think it was morning over here, but it was the evening, if I'm not mistaken, over in Thailand. So a brilliant win there for Chayaphon Moonsri, 51-0, and he needs to retire. Please just retire and keep that record intact, that record of unbeaten, unblemished perfection, really. So keep it going, Mr. Chayaphon, or don't keep it going. Just retire now. You've done enough, Mr. Moonsri. Big fans of you on this show, we are. But that really wraps up the reviewing. Just before we wrap up part one, let's bring in our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former Commonwealth, British and WBO European champion, Mr. Liam Williams. Liam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for getting me on, mate. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's my pleasure, just like it has been the last couple times that you've been on, Liam. So we last spoke just over a year ago, I believe. It was in the build-up to the second Liam Smith fight. That fight obviously ended with a majority decision in favour of Smith. How would you compare those two fights that you had, Liam? Obviously, one was stopped on a cut, and the other one went the distance. But how would you compare your performances in both fights, and also Liam Smith's performances in the both fights?
Do you know what? It's a difficult question, actually. I've never really, looked into it too much, but the first fight, I've never boxed at that level before. So I was very, I was confident in my ability, but unsure, if you know what I'm saying, because, I had to prove to myself I've done it in sparring, many of times, but in a fight, I had to prove to myself that they had that in me to compete at that level. So, but anyway, I went in the first fight with, I was obviously full of nerves for that reason. And I just went off to a flying start. And, without being disrespectful, I boxed Liam Smith's head off. And, yeah, so that was the first fight. It ended the way it did. It was disappointing, but second fight, I went in, I just didn't really have as much respect for him, which, ain't really the way to go about things. It's slightly unprofessional, I'll admit that openly, but I was slightly undermotivated. Obviously, there was a couple of things going on with previous trainer Gary. Nothing going on with us personal, but I just started to lack a little bit of motivation and get a little bit fed up with my surroundings. Then, so I was a little bit down and lacking motivation. And obviously Smith come, he brought an extra 20-30% to the second fight, and he came out a lot better. So me going back 30% and him going forward 30%, obviously that was the difference in the fight, but it was still a very close fight. From my point of view, it could have gone either way. A lot of people ringside thought I still won the fight, but it's just one of them things, and I'm concentrating on the future now, and I know what's already happened in the past.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, it was such a shame, because that first fight, you was unbelievable, that first fight. There's no way in the world. I agree with the scorecards when they did stop the fight. I mean, that was just unreal. But, the less said, the better, obviously.
Beyond me, it was an absolute joke. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and I remember, I watch boxing every single weekend, and that was that left such a sour taste in my mouth. It really peed me off. Like, it was so bad the way it finished. I mean, it took me a while to get over it, and I wasn't even there, but yeah, I mean, even worse for you.
Imagine how I felt.
Exactly. But yeah, not concentrating too much on the past. Obviously, since that loss back in November, you've had just the one fight. It was in April against journeyman Daryl Sharp. Now, Daryl had never ever been stopped in 32 losses, and then he got in with you, and you became the first man and the only man to this point to stop him. A 3rd round stoppage there. Talk us through that fight if you can, Liam. Not many people managed to do that.
Yeah, to be honest, it was a last-minute opponent. They had a couple of opponents which kind of shied away from the fight last minute, and I personally just think that they didn't want the fight. That's boxing. These things happen quite regular, and it's sad to say, really, but it does, and it's disappointing. But fair play to Daryl Sharp. He turned up, he took his licks, and he didn't just. It's not as if he just jumped on the floor and took his money and run. He come there to put up a fight, and he done that and made me think while the fight was in play.
Yeah, that's what he does. He never does come to lay down at all. So credit to you for being the only man. I think he's got about 37 or 38 losses now. But like I say, never ever been stopped aside from that night when he stepped in against you. Like I said, only the one fight since November. Other stuff has gone on, though, outside of the ring. Obviously, you've parted ways with your long-term trainer, Gary Lockett, a very amicable split. I did see a clip of something Gary said on a radio station about the whole split, and it was so nice what he said. It was almost tear-jerking, actually. Obviously, you've now moved to Sheffield. You're training out of the Ingle gym now. How did that link-up come about?
It was a funny one because I didn't. It weren't a planned thing that I was going to leave Gary. I boxed Daryl Sharp, and I was back in the gym for a good while. I was training my nuts off. I was waiting for a new date, and things were happening. I was just getting fed up, and I thought, this is the opportunity for me to move on. I just feel I'm fed up. I feel like I could better myself. Which was nothing really against Gary. It was just something I needed to do to recharge and re-motivate myself. I've obviously been around the Ingle gym a couple of times previously, like sparring Kell Brook and Jason Quigley, so I know how they work. Well, I had a good idea of how they worked, and I obviously seen that Dom was a very, very good trainer, and he. He's on top of everything, and so for me there was only there was 3 people who I was interested in going with, and that was obviously Dominic being one, Jamie Moore, and Adam Booth, which obviously all very good trainers. They've all achieved a lot. Jamie's obviously achieved a lot in his small time being a coach, so credit to him. He's producing the goods. But for me, it was just I tried all of the trainers, and I clicked with Dom, and we were a little bit friendly beforehand. I got on with him on a personal level, outside of training me, and I just thought we'd be a good team, so I jumped in, and I haven't looked back. I'm super excited for the future, and I'm feeling very good, and I've definitely made the right decision.
And all those 3 trainers that you mentioned, they're all at this point in time are having a fantastic 2018 so far, especially Jamie Moore, actually. You said there that you've got the likes of Jason Quigley, you've got the likes of Kell Brook in that Ingle gym. You've also got the likes of Billy Joe. Have you managed to do rounds with those 3 recently?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I haven't sparred with Kell recently, but I've been sparring with Billy Joe, and I've also been sparring with Jason Quigley. So I'm definitely not by any stretch overlooking this fight the week Friday, because I'm taking it serious. For me, it's just another step in the path where I'm heading for these big fights. So I'm not overlooking this guy. Definitely not. I've been working very hard, but we haven't been pulling in too many sparring partners because I've got a good idea who I'm fighting, but it's not actually, sign and seal. It's not a done deal yet, but I'm pretty sure I know who it is. And personally, I don't think he's going to cause me any trouble whatsoever because, like I've said it before, and anybody outside of the top 3, 4 in Britain I don't believe he's going to cause me any trouble whatsoever. I believe I'm at that world level now, and I'm just going to do a number on this guy on a week Friday, and I'm looking to move forward and get a big fight with the titles on the line.
And you mentioned there the fight a week Friday. That'll be the 7th of September. It's back in Cardiff. You mentioned there about an opponent. Nothing's really signed just yet. I'm guessing that'll hopefully be done in the following few days. Can you tell us anything at this stage, or do we have to wait for an announcement?
Yeah, definitely be announced. Well, it'll be confirmed to me tonight. I'm hoping, but I'm pretty confident it should be this. I can obviously tell you it's some Argentinian fella, half decent record. Like a maybe 70% winning, 60-70% winning record. Good couple of knockouts. So, he's no pushover, but he's just going to come and give me a couple of rounds, I hope, so I can prove to the people, so I can prove to everyone that, I've made a good move in being trained by Dominic Ingle and show off some new things which I've been learning, and show everyone it's the correct move that I've made. I'm happy doing so.
And I want to ask you also, Liam, obviously you were signed to Frank Warren for a while. Are you still with Frank or not?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm still with Frank. I don't really know what's going on there. I'm not looking to part ways with him. But I am out of contract in December, so for me, I'm kind of open, and obviously I'd like to keep working with Frank because he's provided me with good opportunities, and he's provided me with good opportunities to make plenty of money and whatever else. So I got no reason to want to leave Frank.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm going to get this fight out of the way a week Friday, and then I'm sure we can sit down and talk with my manager, who's now MTK, obviously, and Frank or whoever's. I just want to be busy, and I want to be earning good money. I want to be fighting with good titles. And I'm just hoping they can offer me that,
And I want to ask you, did you manage to catch your former foe, Liam Smith? Obviously, he came up short against Jaime Munguia a couple months back now, I believe it was. Did you happen to see that fight? If so, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I watched it. I thought, do you know what, Liam got... he lost, obviously, the majority of the rounds, and he, at points, he was in a lot of trouble. I feel that he was really under the pressure. This Munguia, he's young, he's fresh. He's obviously got power, and he's got a great engine. I believe he's a very good champion. He's young, and he's only going to get better. But I think that Liam Smith, he made a good account of himself. Obviously, he don't want to hear that crap. He wanted to win the fight, but it's one of them things, and he didn't do himself, any shame whatsoever. He put up a very good display, and he was very tough on the night.
And a couple of the listeners / Twitter followers on my Twitter, on your Twitter, of both, we put a tweet up and some listeners sent in a couple of questions here. We got one from @Ricey_SUFC. He says, Liam, since your 2 losses to Smith, you've now got to rebuild to get back up to the level you were at before the Smith fights. Have you got a plan mapped out of how to get back up there? For example, belts or fighters that you're targeting? And I just want to add my own little thing to that. Obviously, you've been a British champion, a Commonwealth champion, a WBO European champion. Which belt in a realistic world is the next one that you'll be chasing, Liam?
Right, well, obviously, fighting on the 7th, then there's a lot of talk going on about fighting JJ Metcalf, which I'm more than happy to do, and I'm told that this, it's pretty much a done deal. But where and when, I don't know. I just hope that they can make that happen, in the near future. So I'm not waiting around too long, because I want to be busy now. I want to start climbing back up. So it's just one of them things. I think it's going to be Metcalf. And he currently holds the WBC International, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I think, I'm not sure what ranking it gives me, but it'll give me an half-decent ranking with the WBC. That's mad. Talking of WBC, Twin Charlo just dropped down on my Instagram. He's doing a live video. He's obviously the WBC champion, but anyway, yeah. I want to win now, which I know 100% I can beat Metcalf. So yeah, I don't think I'll have any trouble there as long as I come prepared and don't overlook him and I do everything correct, And
this question is, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, just for me, it's just about getting a couple of wins now. This one next week, then Metcalf. And I'm hoping I'll have a decent WBC ranking. I'm confident I will. And then, obviously, I'm happy to go chasing that WBC title.
And this question came in from @GazaPask1980. He says, it's quite a compliment as well as a question. He says, you are an incredible talent. Can't wait to see you fight again. Have you got a time scale to get a shot at a title? There's a lot of support out there, and we all know you will be a champ in the near future. Good luck.
Yeah, well, that's very nice. That's kind words. I don't really have a time scale or a map towards that other than the one I've just told you. Boxing one end sport where, for me, I believe you've got to take one fight at a time. Obviously, you plan on winning, and I'm taking on one fight at a time. But I'm already looking into the fight after Metcalf, and I'm excited to see what's going to come. But I can't look past him too far because Metcalf's a quality fighter and he's unbeaten. He's unbeaten for a reason. So. To answer that question, it's difficult, really, but I want to be fighting for a world title within the next year to 18 months at most, Yeah,
very thankful for those questions to come in. So thank you for those guys that sent those in. And just coming down to the last couple of questions from me, Liam. I want to ask you a couple of what I'd call quite comical questions. If you're up for that, you up for something like that?
I'm always up for that, mate.
So Liam, if you had to rate from your most favourite to least favourite the 4 Smith brothers, who's the best, who's the worst?
Fucking hell. Do you know what, right? I'm going to be straight up. Before my fights with Liam Smith, I thought he was a total prick. But no, I'm just being straight up, and I'm sure he thought I was a total prick. I don't really know, but since then, to be totally honest, I've spoke to Liam a few times. I actually spoke to him a few times before his fight with Munguia, and I wished him well. And I genuinely hand on heart, I wanted him to win that fight. It could possibly set up a third fight between us, anyway, I don't like or dislike any of them more than the other. It's a bit of a boring answer from you and from the fans' point of view, because they wanted me to, start ripping people. But after the fights, I'm like, past is past, and let's be honest, I can only have respect for him. Liam Smith beat me. He's a good fighter, and it's turned out that he seems to have a bit of respect for me. So only good words, really.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people like Stephen Smith. I think a lot of people say good things about him. Callum also, he seems to be a nice guy. I think a lot of people are kind of unsure on Paul Smith, and especially some of.
Yeah, that's all I think it is. I think, from my personal point of view, I think Paul and Liam are a lot more kind of outspoken.
Yeah.
And especially on social media and stuff. But I just think they're probably the two most fiery two of the four, and they probably just bite the little things more than the other two.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And also, this is the final question I've got for you, the final proper question. If you were going to send a Christmas card, Liam, right, but you've only got enough ink in your pen to address it to one person, so there's one card, there's one little bit of ink, it's either going to Liam Smith or Gary Corcoran. Who do we send that Christmas card to?
Oh, definitely Liam Smith.
Still Gary Corcoran's not in your good books at the moment, no?
Nah, it's one of them again. Like, do you know what? I know it sounds stupid, because these fights weren't, like I'm talking about, as if they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. Like, it's water under the bridge, and I've grown up slightly since then, and I haven't got time for that bullshit, to be honest with you. But obviously, me and Gary Corcoran had a lot of bad blood in the fight, and it's just one of them. Again, we've spoke since the fight, not like personally in each other's messages or whatever, but just like a little bit of banter over Twitter and stuff. And like it was before Christmas, last Christmas, and we just both wished each other well, and happy Christmas, stay safe, kind of thing, But yeah, obviously I'm going to choose to send it to Smith, because I'm pretty sure Gary Corcoran wouldn't want to send me a birthday card. He'd rather rip it in half before he sends it to me.
He's been on the show a couple of times, Gary. He comes across as really nice, actually, to me and all that. But yeah, I've never had Liam Smith on, so I can't really comment on that. But finally,
Gary Corcoran would rather wipe his ass in that lovely card and send it to me.
Finally, Liam, just before I let you go, is there anything else that you want to tell us? Is there anything that I haven't perhaps asked you that you want to get off your chest? Anything at all? Take it away.
Nothing really, mate. Just thanks, as usual. Thank you for the support. Everything, all the support means so much to me, and it spurs me on to do better, having all these fans behind me. So yeah, thanks again, and hopefully I can put up some good performances for you all.
Absolutely. You're very, very welcome, Liam. It's always my pleasure having you on the show. You know that yourself. Best of luck for the 7th, and we'll certainly catch up sometime after, my friend.
Much appreciated. Take care.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. There's honestly not much to preview, but just before we get into that, let's go over to Ayaz with the latest news. Ayaz, take it away.
The World Boxing Super Series Cruiserweight division has been announced once again. So the fighters that will be fighting are Marius Bradis will face Noel Mikhailin. Dorticos will face Marius Mastanak. Krzysztof Glowacki will face Maxim Volosov. And the final one will be Ruslan Fayafer vs Andrew Tabiti.
Yeah, Andrew Tabiti. We said this before it all happened. As soon as it got announced about the cruiserweights, they were involved. It was going to be the cruiserweights again this season. As soon as it happened, we said, what are they going to do? All these names there, does anyone really want to see these guys fight? Does anyone really have much interest in seeing these guys fight? We've got Dorticos again. We've got Bredis again. They're not bad fighters. There's no mention of Gassiev, Ayaz, was there? No Gassiev.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah, so no Gassiev, obviously no Usyk, and at this stage, no clarification on if Usyk's even going to be vacating his belts, because his promoter actually put out a message on Twitter a couple days ago, I think it was, but it's certainly this week, and he said, yeah, Usyk's not even thought about or talked about vacating his titles yet, so there's actually going to be no belts on the line, it would seem. And if they do suddenly become available during this tournament, then perhaps when it gets to maybe the semi-final stage, there'll be a vacant belt or two. But, this is really bad, to be honest. Those guys that you've named there, I mean, obviously you've got Glowacki, good fighter, former WBO world champion, Bradis, Doutikos, but I'm just not excited for it, Ayaz. I don't know if you share that opinion. I mean, there are still some quality fighters in this, but these fighters are not that well known. Obviously, Andrew Tabiti, an undefeated fighter with a lot of promise. I'd like to see him fight, but I'm just overall not that excited for it, Ayaz. Do you share that opinion or what?
To be honest, I totally agree with you. If I'm going to go with honest, if I'm going to agree with you, I'll agree with you on this. But in my opinion, I'll tell you the favourites that's going to win this tournament is going to be probably Marius Bradis.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I mean, he gave Usyk a very hard fight, so yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Just to confirm, Noel Mikalayan takes on Marius Bradis. Doutikos takes on Matthias Mastanak, a former opponent of Tony Bellew. Boy, oh boy. Glowacki takes on Maxim Vlasov. I think that's actually going to be a good fight. That's probably the fight I'm looking forward to most. And then a guy who I've never heard of called Ruslan Fafer takes on Andrew Tabiti, who I do want to see stepped up. So it's a good thing for Tabiti's progression, but just really not excited about it, to be honest. And I don't think that, well, if they even dare putting any of these fights on ITV pay-per-view, you can forget about anyone buying those. And also, the American market, I don't even think they're going to be interested in this one at all. I mean, they weren't interested the first time around with the cruiserweights, but it is what it is. Moving on, Ayaz, any other news for us?
Victor Ortiz will face John Molina Jr. on September the 30th.
Yeah, quite a good fight, actually. John Molina Jr., he's given us some cracking, action-packed fights. Victor Ortiz has given us some cracking, action-packed fights. I'm guessing the fight's probably going to be at welterweight, which I think would probably favour Victor Ortiz at this point. But Ortiz, he's been out the ring for a while, if I'm not mistaken. And John Molina Jr., I believe the same. It's hard to say what fighter has got more left in the tank at this point, because I think they've both had better days. They've both seen better days. The one thing is, both men can punch, so that is one exciting thing. Victor Ortiz has shown time and time again that if the going gets tough, he's pretty happy to just completely quit. And John Molina Jr. is the polar opposite of that. He's got a massive heart. We saw that against Matisse. We saw that against Provodnikov. We saw that against Terence Crawford. Nothing's going to stop that guy. So there's no chance of him getting, out-hearted or out-fought or, just beaten the will out of. It's not going to happen. So interesting to see, because Molina can really punch, and I don't see that fight going the distance, to be honest. I would probably favour Molina, even though obviously he's not as accomplished as Victor Ortiz. Interesting fight, though, nonetheless.
And finally, Eddie Hearn has just announced a Newcastle show on 13th of October, where Lewis Ritson will face Francisco Petera for the European lightweight title. On the undercard, it will be Glenn Foote vs Robbie Davis Jr., Joshua Buatsi, and Dave the White Rhino Allen.
Yeah, decent card. It's brilliant, obviously, for Ritson to now be moving up from British to European, the old-fashioned, traditional route. No need to rush him at all. Good fight for him, very winnable fight for him. Dave Allen on the undercard again. It's good for him to be on TV once again. Obviously, everyone loves Dave Allen. A little bit of beef brewing on social media between him and Shannon Briggs that looks quite exciting, though I don't imagine that fight had happened, because I don't think there's enough money for Shannon Briggs to want to travel for that fight. Also, you mentioned there about, Robbie Davies Jr. and Glenn Foote. That's a cracking fight. Robbie Davies Jr., a friend of the show. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The only thing is, I'm a little bit annoyed because Cyclone Promotions have announced a card on the exact same day, and they're going to clash. So I'm guessing it's going to be probably shown on Channel 5. I think Cyclone's on, or is it ITV? I think it's Channel 5. So they'll be showing that. And then at the same time, we've got this Eddie Hearn Sky Sports show, and it's actually a really good card on the on the Cyclone show, what's happening at York Hall. We've got the headlining fight, Martin Bakole, the fighter that Billy Nelson really bigs up, and he's supposed to be an amazing heavyweight. He's obviously done many rounds sparring with Anthony Joshua, and his man Billy Nelson has said many times he put him in with any heavyweight in the world, and he's taking on Michael Hunter, obviously Michael Hunter Jr., the fighter, obviously, that's kind of gone around from cruiserweight to heavyweight. He's gone back and forth a few times, but he was a former brilliant amateur, and he fought Usyk for the world cruiserweight crown before the World Boxing Super Series started, and he gave Usyk a real tough fight. We've had him on the show a couple times. He's a real nice kid. So and he's also, of course, the son of the former heavyweight Michael Hunter, who, after boxing, I don't think made enough money, and then he turned to being a drug dealer, and then he was set up in some kind of drug bust by 2 undercover policemen, and it all went wrong, and I don't think he knew that they were undercover policemen, so he was wrestling around with them on the floor, and apparently he pulled out his gun, and the undercover policeman had no option but to shoot him dead. So that is his father. But Michael Hunter Jr., a real good fighter, and that's a very tough fight, I tell you what, it really is. But if you lose to a man like Bakole, who is not yet well known, then it can really do damage, because his only loss has been to Usyk, and aside from that, he's a quality operator. I hope that Bakole's team don't overlook him, and vice versa, actually, for Hunter's team. But that's really it for the news, Ayaz, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much, Ayaz. Moving over now to the Emperor's Palace in Kempton Park, South Africa. One fight to mention over here, actually. We have Tabiso Machunu. His record 19-4. He's the man that once upon a time beat Eddie Chambers. He fights for the vacant African Boxing Union cruiserweight title against Thomas Osthausen, who has a record of 27-1 with 2 draws. That's a real good fight, that one, at the cruiserweight division there. It really is. We also have that fight, I believe, on Box Nation this weekend. I think it's at a strange hour, so check that one out on the Sky Planner. Moving over now to Switzerland, we have Arnold the Cobra, the former opponent of David Haye. His record, 30 wins, 2 losses. He takes on Gogita Gorgiladze, whose record's 39-26. That's an 8-rounder there. We really are scraping the barrel here. Moving over now to Thailand, we have a fight over here. It's in a stadium. I'm going to really try to say this. It's called the Sing Manasak Muay Thai School in Pathum Thani. We have a man on the bill called Siramong Kong Iafuam, who has a record of 95-4. This is his 100th professional bout. He fights for the vacant Thai light heavyweight title. He takes on a guy called Mohamed Unsu Buga, who has a record of 0-6 with 1 draw. Very much a mismatch, to say the least there. All the very best in his 100th fight. A very padded record. One of my most favourite padded records in world boxing. Moving over now to the Fantasy Springs Casino in Indio, California, USA. This one a Golden Boy promotion show. We have topping the bill Ryan Garcia, the ladies' favourite, 15-0. He takes on Carlos Morales, another steady step up for him. His record 17-2 with 3 draws. That's it for that one. Moving over now to the final bill. It's actually happening next Wednesday, but by the time the show goes out, the fight would have finished, so we've got to preview it here. This one's happening in Russia in a place called the Amphitheater in Grozny. We have Umar Salamov, 21-1. He takes on Denis Libau, whose record's 24-2. It's for the vacant IBF European light heavyweight title and the vacant WBO International light heavyweight title. So 2 decent belts at stake there. Umar Salamov and Denis Libau. Real good fight, that one, for the Russian fans. But that really wraps up the previewing. Like I say, not too much to preview this weekend. I don't really think there's too much on TV. It's very much a boxing fan's chance to just put their feet up this weekend. But just before we wrap up the show and conclude part 2, there's one last thing to do, and that, of course, is to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBO Super-Middleweight world title challenger. It's, of course, Mr. Jesse Hart. Jesse, welcome back on the show, sir.
Oh, man, it's a pleasure to be back on the show, man. I missed you, UK.
We've missed you too, Jesse. We truly have. So obviously, we last spoke just over a year ago. It was during the build-up to your fight against Gilberto Ramirez for the world title. Now, in that fight, in my opinion, you showed a lot of people that you really can mix it with the best. It was an extremely close fight, and, the fact that you got knocked down in the second round, in my opinion, played a part in the outcome. It ended up being a unanimous decision, 115, 112 twice, and 114, 113, all in favour of Ramirez. Walk us through that fight, though, if you can, Jesse. A brilliant fight.
Well, as I recall it, the fight with Ramirez was my first time fighting for a world title. It was the magnitude of the fight. I have gotten a little starstruck by the moment, per se. I wasn't relaxed. I wasn't easygoing. And that played a major part because he's been there before, and he had the experience to know how to handle that. When you're fighting for a world title, you gotta look. It's for the championship of the whole wide world. You have to be on point, and you have to stay relaxed. This was my first time, my first crack.
And did you prove anything to yourself that night? And I also kind of want to ask you two questions in one. Did you prove anything to yourself that night? And was Ramirez better than you'd previously thought, or was nothing really a surprise?
No, nothing that he done was a surprise, but the experience. The experience, I think, was the due diligence of the fight. I think that played a major part in the outcome. He had a lot of experience with different things in there. And that's all. I think that's all that. I mean, I don't think his skill is better than my skill, but his experience. See, my dad always said, you can't pay for experience. You got to go through it. You got to go through something to experience. Anybody can tell you this and tell you that and how to do it and how to do this. But if you don't got nothing unless you got that experience.
Yeah, very, very wise words. I want to ask you this. Obviously, you've sparred some top guys. I know that you've sometimes struggled to get sparring partners in, but when you've sparred good guys. How does he rank against or amongst the other guys that you sparred? Do you believe he's the number one at that weight? Because I think it's very much up in the air at the moment with the World Boxing Super Series. Everyone's kind of got their own best fighter at 168. Do you say he's the best, or is somebody better?
No, I think Gilberto Ramirez is the best in the weight class, and that's why I want to keep fighting him. I don't want David Benavidez. I don't want Uzcategui. I don't want Rocky Fielding. I want Gilberto Ramirez, because if you cut the head off the number one guy, I mean, I think you become the number one guy. That's what my dad always said. You become the the best guy in your weight division. So I want to chop the head off him. I don't want them other guys.
And of course, you returned to the ring in February of this year against Thomas Awimbono. He's not a fantastic fighter by any means, but he's beaten a couple of good guys, but everyone of note has beaten him, but nobody had ever stopped him. You managed to do it in the very first round, so that was very impressive there. A brilliant way to come back. And then, of course, you fought on the 28th of April in a really strange fight, actually, against Damon Nicholson. And while it lasted, it was actually a good fight, but Damon, in my opinion, showed one of the worst quits I've ever seen. What did you make of that fight? It was quite a crazy one.
When you look at a fighter like Damon Nicholson, a young kid like that, you got to look at, he hasn't been in there tough, really. He hasn't been in there where he had to get hit, go down, get back up, and grab a hold of his nuts and try to keep fighting through it. He hasn't been through that. So when his first time he been through it, it was a shock to himself. Oh, I never been there before. I never been here. And my dad always said this, you don't know how a guy is going to react to certain things until he's in that situation. I don't know. That's like as we call it ratting in America. We call it you're a rat, you're a tail. We don't know whether a guy is going to rat or not until the police and the detectives is in that room with him. We don't know if he's going to do it. He can say he's not. He can say he's going to be a stand-up guy, but we don't know. You know what I mean? he quit. He gave in. He submitted. He hold it. Let me go easy out. Let me tell on myself. I'm a coward. I quit. That's what he done. He couldn't stand that heat.
And you were really angry after the fight with him because I don't think you really respected what he did. Are those feelings kind of settled now? Are you guys cool, or do you still have a bit of an ill feeling towards him for what he did that night?
He's cool with me now. It's more so than the night, but I was just so mad because that was a fight in my actual hometown of Philadelphia. Yeah. And I wanted to give the fans a good showing, a good show. Even if I was in a knockdown, drag-out fight, I just wanted to give him a good fight. But for him to quit like that, to find an easy way out like that just devalued the fight, I believe.
Well, like I say, in my opinion, I remember watching it live. It was a good fight while it lasted, like I say. The referee obviously gave him this infamous 20 count, and then he forced him to get up, which Damon didn't want to get up. And then when he did get up, the referee waved it off. It all seemed very unusual. What did you make of the referee's performance? Was it quite surprising being in there? Because it was very surprising just watching it live. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Absolutely, but I like to say about referee Sean Clark, as long as I know him, he's a referee of good character. He always, done things fair. Sometimes people, forget about certain things. Sometimes people make mistakes, and I can't, harp on that. I'm just glad I got the win. Everybody's saying it should have been a KO instead of a TKO. I can't harp on that. He made a mistake. Everybody makes them. Let's just be glad that I came out with the W. I got the win, and let's move on. That's just how I feel. Everybody make mistakes. He made a mistake.
Yeah, the W is all that counts at the end of the day. In your last fight, it was just the other week, you took on Mike Gavronski. You've now made it 3 knockouts in a row since that world title fight last year. Gavronski had a record of 24-2. One loss was by stoppage because he retired on his store after 8 rounds, but you decisively stopped him in just 3 rounds. Walk us through that fight, please, Jesse, for those that haven't seen it.
Well, Mike Gavronski, he was an okay fighter. I looked at the record. He fought some okay guys. He fought one guy that I know by the name of Torino Johnson. I watched that fight, studying for the training camp, and I realized something. If Mike Gavronski can't get his distance and he don't know what to do, he becomes flustered and he deviates from any game plan that he has. He needs room to get off. But if you stay close on him and you bang on him and you bang him around and you punch him and you push him and you rough him up, he gets a little, I want to say he gets a little flustered. I'm trying to find a word. He gets a little razzled in there. When you rattle him, he gets a little, he deviates from the plan. So my whole thing was use the jab, come out and assert myself that first round, let him know who's boss. I did just that. If you look at the first round, I landed 2 solid right hands, As I landed with 2 right hands, I feel like he wasn't going to punch no more, so Don tried to swarm him. But Mike Gavronski was supposed to be a really, really good fighter. Damon Nicholson was supposed to be a good fighter, and Tommy Bono was supposed to be tough. So you put all those 3 together, and you add them up, and I think all of them each had a different styles, but Gavronski, I think, was the better out of all of them.
Yeah, and like I say, 3 opponents there, 3 very different styles, but all 3 fights ending the same, a knockout win for yourself. So brilliant stuff there. Since this world title fight that we had now, you've proved that you're above the types of guys like Gavronski and the rest of them that you just mentioned there. Do you know when you'll be stepping up in opposition or even challenging again for a title? Is there a plan in place at this stage for you?
Well, I feel like right now I'm hot, and I think the champions need me at this point. If you really look at it, my performances have been spectacular. 3 knockouts. You gotta really look at it. You gotta really understand that concept. 3 straight knockouts. I'm getting all these views. You know, I'm making a crazy name of my performances. Champions need me. So whichever champion, you know, want to fight, I'm more so welcome. I'm more so welcoming them all. I want Ramirez. That's the fight I want. But if I can't get that fight, I'll fight Dave Benavidez. I mean, it doesn't matter which champion. It just, you know, I thought my ultimate goal is becoming world champion. But I have a vendetta against Gilberto Ramirez.
And I want to also point this out. Obviously, you know, you've been ranked with a WBO for quite a while. You're now ranked with the IBF quite highly. The new champion, Uzcategui. Am I correct in saying that you're both signed to Top Rank?
No, Uzcategui is not signed to Top Rank.
Okay, because he's not defending his title, but he's fighting on a card coming up in on one of Top Rank's banners, right? Yeah. Yeah, so...
Okay. I mean, Uzcategui is not even on my radar. I mean, but we work with his promoter. That fight can happen.
Yeah, that would be a brilliant fight. But looking at a couple of other things. Sorry to cut you off, Jesse. What'd you say?
I said that fight can happen. I mean, the powers to be, the promoters, we all get together. I mean, it definitely can happen.
Yeah, brilliant fight that'd be. And looking at the World Boxing Super Series tournament, I know that you know, when we last spoke, I think it was just sort of kicking off. You were very excited about it. It's now just got 2 men left, George Groves and Callum Smith. That fight is set for the 28th of September, randomly in Saudi Arabia. Do you have a horse in that race? Who do you believe will come out victorious?
Callum Smith, not only because... I say Callum Smith because he's a younger, fresher guy. I mean, what's the guy that he's fighting again?
George Groves, the guy that just beat Eubank Jr.
Right. Eubank Jr. busted him up so badly. I mean, that guy been through wars. That guy been through real live wars. Callum Smith is a much fresher fighter, a much fresher body. Groves been beaten up not only in his last fight, but with Badu Jack, with Carl Froch twice. I mean, his body physically, like how much punishment, to be brutally honest, how much punishment can he really take? How much punishment can the human body really take? You know, we gotta start looking at that. He took some real damaging blows. I mean. And May took some off his career. So when you got a guy like Callum Smith in there, who can punch, who's tall, who's rangy, who's like a jackal. So I want to say this: you have to be able to go the distance if the fight, you know, permits itself to go the distance. I don't believe that Groves can go the distance anymore. The physical punishment his body has taken is just bad. It's just bad. Like I'm saying, he has the experience, but what can his body do?
Yeah, very bold prediction to go with Callum Smith, but I'm happy that you've done that because a lot of the American boxers that I speak to, they haven't really seen much of Callum Smith, so they all kind of favour Groves. But I like hearing your predictions because last time when we spoke, I was asking you about some of the your favourite UK fighters, and you said how good Rocky Fielding is, and at that time. Not many people were quite too sure of how good Rocky Fielding is, but like you mentioned earlier, he's gone on to now become a world champion. It's the regular WBA title, but even still,
absolutely.
Yeah, that was a when you predict. Well, you didn't really predict, but when you said he's a good fighter, like I say, at that time people were kind of unsure, and he's proved himself now. Is that a fight that you'd fancy, Jesse? Because I know that you've seen a lot of Fielding.
Well, with Fielding, I like the way he fights so much. I would love to fight him just for the world title, but I like Rocky Fielding. I really like the guy. It's not a fighter I wouldn't fight. I would love to fight Rocky Fielding for the world title for the WBA, but I like to watch Rocky fight. I learn watching him a little bit because he's tall just like I am and he's rangy. And you got to know what type of fighter Rocky is to understand the cuttiness of boxing. He's a tall, rangy guy who likes to throw combinations, but he starts off a little slow to set everything up. If you watch, Callum Smith beat him because he started off slow trying to set everything up. You understand what I'm saying? So when you watch Rocky, I can see him thinking in there. I like Rocky. I love to fight him, but I don't make no mistakes. If that fight presents itself, I would love to take that fight. But I like Rocky.
Now, I want to ask you this question, but I kind of think that you've answered it already. I was going to ask you, who is the man in the entire super middleweight division that, you know, you've got at the top of your wish list, so to speak, and you've kind of basically told me that is still Gilberto Ramirez. I'm right in saying that, right?
No, yes, you're right. Yeah, Gilberto Ramirez is still.
And Jesse, you're still ranked at number 1 in the WBO, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So will a mandatory get called? Will you get a chance to fight him? And if so, do you know when that's likely to be at this stage?
No, I don't. I can't. I don't recall. I can't tell you that.
Okay. All right. One thing that I do want you to tell us, Jesse, if you've got anything at all that you want to get off your chest, if there's anything I perhaps haven't asked you just before we let you go, is there anything at all that you want to say before we let you go?
No, I just want to thank you guys for always. I love the UK. Like I always say, man, if you don't fight over the UK, and you know the UK has some of the best fighters in the world, and I love the UK, man. I really do. Like I always said before I close out, my wish fight is Anthony Joshua. I just want to see how it is in there with him. I just want to swap punches with him one day. If I can make 200 pounds, I would love to swap punches with him. I believe you guys got the best fighters, you know, not only like in the world, but in the boxing game right now. I love what Anthony Joshua is doing. I love what Rocky Fielding is doing. I love what Callum Smith is doing. I love what the UK is doing, and you guys not scared to fight nobody. You guys are not scared to fight nobody. You know, I love what Eddie Hearn is doing. You know, with the streaming deal, I love when he signed. I mean, the UK boxing is picking up so much. It's making a sport better. I believe, and that's all I'm gonna say, man.
Very nice words. Thank you. And I'm going to throw this question in there just before I let you go, actually, Jesse. It's looking like it's a done deal now. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. No date just yet, but what are your thoughts on this fight? If it does end up happening, who wins?
Wow, that's a tough, man. That's a hell of a fight. And you see what I just said? UK fighters are not scared to fight anybody. I don't know whether it's Deontay Wilder, because Tyson Fury is very, very crafty. He's like a jackal. So, you know, I mean, he'll con you. He'll con you to sleep with his fighting style, but the whole time he's winning. It's like he did Klitschko. So we all have to be prepared for that, for the Fury, you know, for the wrestling Fury. But also, you know, we've seen a guy like Steve Cunningham pit Tyson Fury down with a right hand. And we all know Wilder can really punch. If he catches Fury, will Fury be able to get up or will he stay down? Nobody knows.
So it's a bit of a 50-50 fight.
It's a 50-50 fight. If like I just said, man, with the style that Tyson Fury got, he can lure guys to sleep with that style and he just pop them and he beats on him, he moves around and he showboats. But the whole time he's still in the rounds. He's winning the fight. He's winning the fight by still in the rounds, but he's been down by a guy who's a real cruiserweight who hit him with a right hand, who knocked him down in New York. I was there. And he got up. But if Wilder hit him with that same right hand, that same power, not because it's not going to be the same power. Wilder hits like a freakishly, they said it's freakish. They say his power is very freakish. If he gets caught with a Wilder right hand, will he be able to get up? Will he be able to stand on his feet? Water can hit you anywhere at any given round at any time. The fight can be over. The fight can literally be over, and water can knock you out in the last 20 seconds of the fight. So it's a 50-50 fight. I don't care what nobody says.
But who are you leaning towards, Jesse, if you're going to let me push you for a winner?
Oh man, I ain't leaning toward. I can't call that one. It's a 50-50 fight.
Okay, I'll let you off. But listen, Jesse, it is always a pleasure speaking with you. It really, really is. I want to wish you the absolute best of luck for what's next in your career. I truly mean that, and we'll certainly catch up sometime again soon.
Thanks, Joy. You too.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 150 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Summer has been Ayaz Summer. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's show, Mr. Liam Williams and Mr. Jesse Hart. Two men very much on the verge of another big shot. Certainly two men with the capabilities of becoming proper world champions. I'd like to just wish everybody a fantastic weekend. I hope that you all enjoy your weekend this week. Please, if you do get a chance, remember to leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll catch you all again next week.